Here is where we left off at the last video. White is ahead by 7 points, which should be enough to guarantee a victory for white. Black needs to really fight a lot and not give up in this game. And this game shows that you should never give up because you never know when you're going to be able to creep back into the game. I'm going to play through the moves pretty quickly and only go through the moves that made the biggest impact on the game. So here, white has an unprotected piece at a7. White's a good player. White noticed it and got another little advantage. We're now looking at things from black's vantage point, and we're just going to move 2 moves. This is a critical point in the game. If you study tactics and chess puzzles, that will help prepare you for positions like this, because black has a move that will completely change the outcome of the game. I'm going to give you a second to look at this position and see if you can figure it out, but it's one of my favorite types of moves in chess, and it has to do with X-ray attacks. The most powerful move in chess, obviously, is checkmate, but checks are also very important too, and it's part of the reason why it's so important to castle early in the game. Because if you don't castle early, the king is left out in the open and leaves the king vulnerable for attacks. And this is a perfect example of how a king in the center of the board can be dangerous. So do you see the move from black that involves putting the king in check that completely changed the game? And this is it right here. The black bishop can attack the king and put the king in check, but after bishop moves, there's an X-ray attack on white's queen. White has to take care of that check, and so white is going to lose the queen. So if we play through this, the black bishop puts the king in check. Best move for white is to recapture, but then the black queen takes the white queen, and black is now ahead. After being behind by 8 points, black now has the lead in this position. So be on the lookout for X-ray attacks and open kings, because there's usually a lot of great tactics that can be found there. We'll continue to play from this position. Now here, the knight is unprotected for black, and the queen has an attack on it. And remember, if you're being attacked, think of the ABCs of chess. A stands for attack, F stands for flee. And usually F, fleeing, is the weakest move that a chess player can make. Attacking, a lot of times, is the strongest move. Do you see an attack that black could do in this position that would be stronger than the attack that's against it? The answer is for the black knight to put the king in check while forking the rook at the same time. If black moves the knight to that position, attacks both pieces at the same time, king would have to move out of the way, and the black knight can take the white rook and whittle that lead down from being behind by 8 points now to being behind by 4 points and slowly getting back into the game. We're now going to look at the game from white's point of view. Instead of for attacking, black's knight flees. Now here, black gives white an unprotected piece. Now, you can see that the king is in check. And I think what happened in this position is that white saw the check and didn't think of what the options were. So again, if you're under attack, think of the ABCs of chess. If you're in check, it's pretty hard to attack your opponent, so that's not going to work. B stands for block. So white could take the pawn and block the bishop, Also, C is capture. Well, it's an unprotected piece, and there is a piece that can capture, and white could just take that bishop right off the board. So again, if you're under attack, don't just automatically flee, because again, fleeing is one of the weakest things you can do. Check the ABCs of chess and make sure that there's not a better move that's hiding in there instead. We're now going to go back to black's vantage point. Black put the king in check, and instead of capturing the free piece, what white did was move the king out of the way. But you can now see that white has an unprotected piece, and so black can get 3 points for free, but black doesn't see it. Black moves out of the way. And I think what happened is that, I don't know, I think maybe black was moving too fast and wasn't really paying attention to what was happening in the game. If black would have taken, and I'm going to go back to this move, if black would have taken that free knight, black would be behind by 5 points. But instead, by moving the bishop away from the action, black is now behind by 10 points. So again, if you're behind in chess, especially by a lot, take the time to look at all the moves to see how you could get back into the game. Because a lot of times your opponent will give you free pieces that you can just take.